Chapter 8: Cell Structure and Function. Introduction. There are millions of living and non-living things around us. Some of them are big, others small. Most of these are made up of groups of smaller things. For example, a residential society is a collection of many buildings. A building is a collection of floors. A classroom is a collection of students. A team is a collection of players. Everything is made by assembled units. While the smallest unit of matter is an atom, the smallest unit of living organisms is the cell. In this chapter, we will look closely at cells. Cell is the most basic structural unit of living beings. Just like a wall is made up of bricks, the cells assemble together to form the body of every organism. Thus, a cell may be defined as the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Discovery of cell. In 1665, a scientist named Robert Hooke discovered cells for the first time. He observed thin slices of cork, which is a part of the bark of a tree, under a simple magnifying glass. Then he studied the same slices under a microscope. He observed partition boxes or compartments which appeared like a honeycomb. Who gave the name cell for each box? The boxes or cells in the cork were actually dead cells. More information on cells could not be found for a long time after that. After the invention of modern microscopes, further studies were carried out.
Today, we know many facts about cells, including their types, structures, and functions.
The cell theory was proposed by two German scientists, M. Schleiden and T. Schwann, in 1838. It forms the basis of study of living organisms. The cell theory states that all organisms are made of one or more cells. New cells arise from pre-existing cells. All cells have similar basic structure and functions, though they may be of different types. The cell theory is applicable to all the organisms on Earth. The cell. Cells are complex living structures. Cells are of different shapes and sizes. Same type of cells aggregate together to form tissues. Tissues assemble together to form organs. The number of cells in an organ or in the whole body varies from one organism to another. Different organisms have different shapes and sizes, and consequently the sizes and shapes of their organs also vary. Number of cells. There is a lot of variation in the number of cells present in organisms.
For example, the human body has trillions of cells which vary in shape and size, whereas the egg of a hen is a single cell.
Organisms made up of a single cell are known as unicellular organisms. Organisms made of more than one cell are known as multicellular organisms. In unicellular organisms, one cell performs all the essential functions similar to the ones performed by the multicellular organisms. For example, a single-celled organism will perform functions such as capturing and digesting food, respiration, growth, reproduction, excretion, etc. But in multicellular organisms, the similar functions will be performed by different organs, which are made up of specialized cells. Hence, in multicellular organisms, the levels of organization include cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and body. However, for all multicellular organisms, life starts with a single cell, that is the fertilized egg. This egg further divides to gradually create all the cells. Hence, all organisms perform all the life functions, irrespective of the number of cells in them. Unicellular organisms such as amoeba, paramecium, euglena, etc. can be easily collected from pond water and can be observed under a microscope by preparing slides. Shape of cells. Cells can be of different shapes. They can be round, spherical, or elongated. Some cells can be long and pointed at both the ends. Example, Spindle-shaped muscle cells. Some cells can be long and branched. Example, nerve cells. And some can be spherical. Example, red blood cells. Organisms such as amoeba have no definite shape. They keep changing shape due to appearance and disappearance of projections, which are known as pseudopodia. The pseudopodia help in locomotion and capturing of food. Amoeba is an independent, unicellular organism which can exist on its own. In humans, white blood cells present in the blood can change their shape. The contents of a cell are surrounded by a membrane known as cell membrane. This membrane is responsible for providing shape to the cell. In plant cells, there is an additional covering called cell wall. Cell wall is also found in bacterial cells. Size of cells. There is a lot of variation in the size of cells. Most of the cells are very small in size and are visible only under a microscope. A microscope enlarges or magnifies the cells to make them visible. However, there are some cells which are very big. The size of cells can vary from 0.1 micrometer to 13 centimeters. The egg of an ostrich measuring 170 millimeter into 130 millimeter is the largest cell. The size of a cell is independent of the size of an organism, but the size is directly related to the function it performs. For example, red blood cells are spherical in both small and big animals as they perform the same functions. Similarly, nerve cells in all organisms are long and branched. Human nerve cells are believed to be the longest cells. Viewing cells. As discussed earlier, most of the cells are microscopic in nature and are not visible with the naked eyes. Dutch scientist Anton van Leeuwenhoek was the first one to make a microscope. Using his handcrafted microscope, he observed and described muscle fibers, bacteria, and blood flow in capillaries.
These days, there are different types of microscopes including simple, compound, and electron microscopes.
Most cells are best studied under a compound microscope. Cell structure and function. In living organisms, cells are the basic structural units. Similar cells combine together to form tissues, and similar tissues combine together to form an organ. In multicellular organisms, there are many organs. Different organs will work together to form a system such as the digestive system, excretory system, respiratory system, and so on. For example, in animals, each organ in a respiratory system performs a different function such as inhalation, absorption, assimilation, and expiration. Similarly, in plants, leaves are responsible for synthesis of food, stems for transfer of food and nutrients from leaves to the other parts, and roots for absorbing water and nutrients from the soil. Parts of the cell. The cell has three main parts: cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus. Cell membrane. The cell membrane is the outermost layer of a cell and encloses the basic components of the cell, which is the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Cell membrane is also known as plasma membrane. It not only separates one cell from another, but also separates the cell from the surrounding environment. This membrane is porous in nature. It allows regular movement of substances or materials both from inside and outside. In plant cells, there is an additional layer outside the cell membrane which is known as cell wall. This additional layer provides protection to the cells against variation in temperature, high-speed wind, extra environmental moisture, and so on. This additional protection is required by plants because they are not mobile, that is, they are stationary and cannot move from one place to another. Cytoplasm. The jelly-like substance present inside the cell membrane is the cytoplasm. All other organelles of the cell are present in the cytoplasm. These include mitochondria, vacuole, ribosomes, Golgi bodies, etc. Many important functions of the cell take place in the cytoplasm. Nucleus. Nucleus is situated at the center of the cell and is spherical in shape. This is one of the most important parts of the cell. The nucleus remains surrounded by a membrane called nuclear membrane, which separates it from the cytoplasm. This membrane is also porous in nature and allows regular movement of substances or materials between the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Depending upon the presence or absence of nuclear membrane, organisms can be classified as prokaryotic or eukaryotic. The cells having nuclear material without a proper nuclear membrane are known as prokaryotic cells. Example: bacterial cells and blue-green algae. The cells of multicellular organisms are well organized and have nucleus with a nuclear membrane. These are known as eukaryotic cells. There is a small spherical body in the nucleus which is known as nucleolus. Nucleus also contains thread-like structures known as chromosomes, which carry genes. Genes contain all the information required for the functioning of the cell. The chromosomes present inside the nucleus are visible only when the cells divide. In humans, there is a set of 23 pairs of chromosomes. Among these, there are 22 pairs of autosomes and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. This particular set of chromosomes determines whether a newborn will be a boy or a girl. Genes are the units of inheritance in all living organisms. They control the transfer of a hereditary feature from one generation to the other. Different combination of genes from parents results in different features in their offsprings. Organelles. The living parts of the cell that have a definite shape, structure, and function are known as organelles. These are found in the cytoplasm. The main organelles of the cell are as follows. Vacuole. It is a fluid-filled space enclosed in a membrane. It stores water, useful minerals, pigments, and many other substances. Lysosome. These contain chemical substances called enzymes that can digest cells. It is also known as the suicide bags of the cell. In case of emergency, these can burst and destroy the cell. Endoplasmic reticulum. It is a network of tubules and channels and is involved in the synthesis, storage, and transport of cell products. Centrosome. It is present only in animal cells. Its function is to initiate and regulate cell division. Ribosomes. Small granular structures scattered in the cytoplasm that act as sites of protein synthesis. Mitochondria. Tiny spherical or rod-shaped bodies which act as sites of energy production and are known as powerhouses of the cell. Golgi apparatus. It is made up of tubules, vesicles, and vacuoles and is responsible for the secretion of chemical substances such as enzymes, hormones, and proteins. Comparison of plant cell and animal cell. Plant cells have an additional layer outside the cell membrane, which is known as cell wall. Plant cells have a large vacuole which occupies the maximum space inside the cell. If we observe the animal cells carefully, we can see many small vacuoles. Different colored bodies remain scattered inside the cytoplasm of the plant cell. These are known as plastids. Green-colored plastids are known as chloroplasts. These are green in color due to the presence of a pigment called chlorophyll. These pigments are highly concentrated in the leaves and due to which leaves appear green in color. Chloroplasts are essential for the process of photosynthesis. Plant cell. Plant cells are larger in size. Cell wall present. Plastids are present. Cells have single large vacuole. Plant cells photosynthesize due to the presence of chlorophyll. Centrosome absent. Animal cell. Animal cells are smaller in size. Cell wall absent. Plastids are absent. Cells have many small vacuoles. Do not photosynthesize. Centrosome present. Cell division and growth. After reaching a certain size, a cell divides into two by a process known as cell division. This process helps in the growth of organisms.
Cell division also replaces the dead or damaged cells with new ones and hence is responsible for healing wounds.
Percolation. The rate of absorption of a soil depends on its composition. The process of absorption of water by soil is known as percolation. Percolation rate milliliter per minute is equal to amount of water milliliter upon percolation time minute. Soil color. The color of soil can tell scientists a lot about it. There are over 170 different soil colors. Most of these are shades of black, brown, red, grey and white. Generally, the darker a soil is, the more nutrient-rich it is. The darker color often indicates an increase in decomposed organic matter known as humus. Grey soils often indicate poor drainage, while red color indicates very poor soils. These general rules about soil colors can, however, be misleading. Under certain conditions, a very poor soil can appear as dark black, while a rich healthy soil can appear as red. Soil texture. Another easily experienced property of soil is texture. Pick up a pinch of soil between your fingers and rub it back and forth. You will quickly notice that the soil is made up of many different sized particles. These particles give the soil its texture. Some soils have more large particles and fewer small particles, while other soils have an abundance of small particles with few large particles. Few soils have an equal balance between small and large particles. These well-balanced soils are most healthy for plant life. Soil structure. In many soils, small lumps form as the particles cluster together. These are called dirt clods. These dirt clods become hard to form beds. These beds affect how easily water is able to move through the soil. They also affect the movement of animals and roots of plants. Beds tend to form more often in wet locations and less frequently in drier locations. Sandy locations, such as deserts, do not form any beds at all. Acidity versus alkalinity of soil. For survival, the plants need nutrients. The nutrients in soil dissolve in water and this water is taken by the plant through roots. If a soil has too much acid in it, the nutrients in the soil will be dissolved too quickly and leach away as the water drains. If a soil is too alkaline, or in other words, if there is not enough acid, the nutrients will not dissolve quickly enough. Thus, a neutral soil which is neither too acidic nor too alkaline is preferred type of soil for plant life to thrive.